All right, here we are back with the MaxPreps Podcast. That is National Football Editor Zack Poff. I am Steve Montoya. Zack, we hit October. It's kind of that time now where teams start to think about playoffs, focusing there. I mean, there's still some big, obviously, games going on, but let's talk a little bit about the rankings. We had another California team enter. That's the 7th California team in the top 25. Is Cali football just on another level this year?
I would say this year, yes, California has the best high school football. You look at the rankings, you got 7 teams in the top 25. You have the top 2 teams in the entire country, 1 and 2 spots in modern day, St. John Bosco. And then you got Mission Viejo at number 10. So you got 3 teams in the top 10 alone. And then obviously you got Orange Lutheran, J. Sarah Catholic, and De La Salle, who's had a very good season this year. And then the newest addition was Corona Centennial, who, beginning of the year they were ranked. Husan Longstreet was a little banged up. He's healthy now. He's playing at 100%, and they're just a different team right now. And they're also getting some key transfers who had to sit out because of CIF rules coming back. So expect the defense to be playing at the same level the offense is right now.
And who would you say has a good case or a good argument against that? I mean, Texas is always in the mix.
Yeah.
Duncanville, there is, I guess, a little comparison there. Duncanville played St. Francis Academy. St. Francis played a couple California teams. Would you say Texas is kind of second in the mix, or is it hard to say?
I would actually, this might surprise some people, but I would maybe go with Georgia this year. I think we look at Georgia as a whole this year. I think this Milton team probably is the best team right now that would have a chance to jump past Mater Dei or Bosco. Say they split, they go 1-1 against each other. I say Milton's a team that's got a good case. And then obviously the way Carrollton's playing this year, Buford's been playing great football. And then obviously too, Douglas County's been impressive. Lee County got a big win last week. So I would say Georgia's probably number 2 right now with Texas and Florida pretty close behind them too. But yeah, I would go California 1, Georgia 2. And then I'd probably go Texas 3 and then Florida 4. But obviously this changes every single year. It's not saying California is the best every year because we've seen in years past where other states are better. But I would say as a whole, California's 1 and Georgia's 2.
All right, well, Florida got a little bit of a rough start with the Broward Showcase. Some of the teams there got beat early on, so a little rough there for Florida. But we always see when the NFL draft comes around, the talent is not missing from Florida.
I would say talent-wise, Florida's probably the best, especially when it comes to producing skill players. Receivers, DBs, a lot of those dudes come from the state of Florida. But, California right now, when you just look at high school football and the level of talent for these teams right now, I would say, California is 1. I would say this, too, with Texas. A team like North Crowley has made Texas stronger because they came in and beat DeSoto. And then Duncanville, obviously, the top-ranked team in the state of Texas right now. And you also got North Shore, and DeSoto's still a pretty good squad, too. So,
all right, well, let's stay with Texas. We're almost at the midpoint for a lot of states, so we're going to talk about some of the guys in contention, at least for now, for Player of the Year. And it starts in Texas with the quarterback there for Duncanville. I mean, he's on a different level right now.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's having a pretty good week, and this is the next quarterback they coming in. Keelan Russell, you look at his stats this year, he's thrown for nearly 1,500 yards in 4 games, but the stat that jumps out for me, he's got 20 touchdown passes to only 1 interception, so he's taking care of the football. The last 2 weeks, Keelan Russell has more touchdown passes than incompletions. So that just shows you how efficient.
It's like Jared Goff, huh?
Yeah, right? I mean, hopefully he gets a game ball. But
that's true.
He's just playing at a different level right now. Duncanville, obviously, if they run the table, win their 3rd consecutive state title, there's a good chance you could see Keelan Russell being named MaxPreps National Player of the Year. He's having a tremendous season so far. It's only been 4 games.
Yeah, and then looking at Julian Lewis from Carrollton, the USC commit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason 24/7 Sports, the composite rankings, has him as a 5-star.
Yeah.
He's just that type of player, and he's having a phenomenal year here so far in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, and kind of the same thing with Keelan Russell. Julian Lewis is just doing a tremendous job of not turning the football over. He's got a 21-3 touchdown to interception ratio. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards. And obviously, too, Carrollton's 6-0 this year. They want to make a case they're the best team in Georgia. I'd say them and Milton are the top 2 teams in the state right now. But if Carrollton, runs the table, wins their first state title since 1998, and wins that 6A state crown, there's a good chance you could see Julian Lewis becoming the 2nd player over the last 3 years from Georgia to win National Player of the Year, joining Caleb Downs.
And then Montavian Quisenberry, the West Virginia commit. He's the type of player when you're a coach, it's basically let him do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
You want to throw some passes, go ahead. Let's give him the rock, rushing. Let's put him out at wideout, whatever.
Yeah.
The kid's just a playmaker all over the field for Boyle County.
Yeah, it's like you said, man, you don't really need to drop plays. It's, hey, get the ball to number 5. Good things are going to happen. And with him, I mean, really that St. Edward game was huge because they go on the road, beat St. Edward, the 3-time defending D1 state champs, and he was clearly the best player on the field. You look at his stats, he's just a guy that just impacts the game everywhere, running, receiving, defense. He's second leading rusher with over 400 yards rushing, leads the team with over 400 yards receiving, and he's also got 2 interceptions playing defense too. So he's just a guy that impacts the game at such a high level, where he's put his name in the mix to be in contention to be the MaxPreps Player of the Year.
Yeah, and then finally Alvin Henderson, running back, he's probably going to get to 10,000-yard career rushing yards when it's all said and done. You just hand him the ball and let him go to work. He's something special to watch out of the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, would you say getting 300 yards rushing is pretty hard to do?
I would say so.
He's done it in 5 or 6 games this year. I mean, you just look at the stats. He's ran for almost 2,000 yards already. I think he's like 60 yards shy of 2,000.
Yep.
And he's done it in 6 games. He has 33 rushing touchdowns this year. Last year as a junior, he broke the Alabama state record for rushing yards in a single season. He's probably going to do more this year. So he's just having a tremendous season. And, he's obviously not playing the level of competition these other guys are playing, but it doesn't matter. This guy would be putting up numbers no matter where he's playing against who he's playing.
Yeah, and the big thing with all those guys we just mentioned, every single one of them has full stats on MaxPreps.
Yeah.
So that helps us out a lot, too, helps players get...
Yeah, and this is coming out, too, tomorrow, so make sure to check it out to see the full list of the 10 guys. And on top of that, too, I mean, there's guys that aren't on the list that could still win National Player of the Year at the end of the season. This just is kind of the halfway point.
For sure. All right, well, let's look ahead to some games because there's actually quite a few big-time games, and starting in Southern California, Orange Lutheran, St. John Bosco. It hasn't been good for Olu against Bosco. I was looking 14 straight losses. I think it's
a lot of them lopsided too.
A lot of lopsided. But at Orange Lutheran, they're a very solid squad. This is a great way to start open league play out there in Southern California. Big-time game here.
Yeah, and Orange Lutheran, they were solid last year, but they were young. They had a lot of guys come back this year, and we've seen that. Their only loss was against Bishop Gorman. They were down 26-7 at half to Sierra Canyon. Came back, won that game, so they got a lot of momentum going into this one. Both teams were on byes last week, getting ready for Trinity League action. St. John Bosco, though, they're young, but this is one of the best teams in close games. They've been in some close games in the fourth quarter, and they've played their best football when it matters most. And I think that's going to be huge for Bosco because they've been in these close games. So if Orange Lutheran's giving them a game, adversity is not going to be too much for them. I expect Bosco to play very well Friday, and I think Bosco's going to win this game by a couple of scores. But TJ Latif's been playing pretty good football, quarterback at Orange Lutheran. They have a very talented defense, but I just think Bosco's got too many dudes, very talented receiving core.
Yeah, and then in Florida, IMG Academy gets to play this week. They're going to go up against Venice. Yeah. Venice has shown they can score some points. Yes. I think they're averaging well over 50 points a game, but they're also giving up some points as well. So what do you see in this game?
Yeah, that's the key for me is Venice is going to have to get some stops because it's going to be hard to put 50 on the board against a very talented IMG defense. But the guy that I can't wait to see is Winston Watkins Jr. He played at IMG, and he transferred out last year, and it's his first year now at Venice. I think he wants to have a big game against IMG. He's had a very, very good season so far. Venice also has a very strong rushing attack, but I just think it's going to be too much against IMG. Ty Hawkins having a great season so far, 2025 SMU commit at quarterback. They also got a bunch of stud running backs, great offensive line, and a very talented defense. I think it's going to be a tough night for Venice, but they can score points. If they can find a way to force a couple turnovers, who knows? But, yeah, I would expect IMG to win this game.
All right, in the state of Texas, Atascocita, Sumner Creek. I mean, this is kind of a classic, just real good, solid football game in the state of Texas. Yeah. Both undefeated, both wanting to kind of prove they're national powerhouses this year. Both are playing really good football.
Yeah, I mean, Summer Creek's been one of the most dominant teams in the country this year. They're 4-0, but they've outscored the opposition 215-0. So yeah, no
I
one's
would say
even
that's dominant.
Yeah, nobody's even scored on these dudes. I'd expect Atascocita obviously to put up some points. You know, you got Carde Mack at quarterback, 2026 4-star. And then Torrey Blaylock, a 2025 Oklahoma committed running back. Last week he had 12 carries for 212 and 6 touchdowns.
That's not bad.
Yeah, pretty good fantasy night there for Torrey Blaylock. So. Yeah, this should be a good game, man. I think Atascocita is going to find a way to win. I think they've played a little better competition this year. You know, they beat Westlake earlier this season, also beat Katy. Summer Creek's had some good wins too, but I think Atascocita is going to win this one. But last year, Summer Creek won. That was the first time they beat Atascocita. They were 0-9 before last year, so trying to make it 2 in a row. But I'm going with Blaylock and Mack in this one.
All right, let's finish out in Miami, a good classic game here between Miami Central and Miami Northwestern. Kind of a battle of Miami. This is like a classic rivalry between those two schools. Yeah,
this is one of those games like records don't matter, but both have respectable records. You know, Miami Central's 4-1. Northwestern's a couple plays away from being 5-0. They're 3-2.
Yep.
Lost in overtime to Venice, and then they also lost a close one to Norland, a game they were up 17-8 in the fourth quarter. But Teddy Bridgewater, man, he's very familiar with this rivalry as a player.
Yes, sir.
But he gets his first taste of it now as a head coach. He's doing a tremendous job. He's turned the Bulls program around pretty quick. But Miami Central, since they put A.J. McQueen at quarterback, they've just been a totally different team. I think Miami Central is going to win this one and give Teddy Bridgewater a L in his first game as coach against rival Miami Central. But I expect a lot of fireworks in this one. This should be a pretty good game. But, yeah, I think Miami Central is going to win their 5th game in a row.
All right, well, we'll have full coverage on MaxPreps. We'll have our National Player of the Year watch list coming out as well on Thursday. So hit the site and check that all out, and we'll be back next week for another edition of the MaxPreps Podcast. That is Zack Poff. I'm Steve Montoya. Thanks for tuning in.